Good afternoon. Welcome to Tilson Live, everyone. It is Tuesday. It is 2 o'clock. We are coming at you live on YouTube, live on Facebook, and probably other mediums that we don't know about. But for sure, those two platforms, YouTube and Facebook, coming at you live. I'm Eric Allard, part of the fourth generation of the Tilson family, joined as I am each and every single week, thank the Lord, by Dawn Dantzler, our Vice President of Marketing and Customer Experience. Good afternoon, Dawn.
Hey, Eric. How's it going?
It's going fantastic. So glad to be here today, talking about a very important subject. But obviously, a couple of things to talk about beforehand. We are here each and every week to talk about all things building a custom home on your land. So Tilson's a custom home builder. We build homes all over Texas, have for 90, I guess we're 93, 92-ish years now.
Yeah.
Where we are. Anyway, so we're over 90 years, 4 generations. This is what we do. We build homes on your land in predominantly rural areas of the state, places that are typically hard to get to from a utilities and construction and labor force standpoint. We got you covered. So because of that, we are here each and every single week to talk to you, answer your questions that you might be having, thinking about objections, something stopping you. Are you worried about the financing? Are you worried about cost? Are you worried about design? Are you worried about what your wife or husband may want? That's what we're here to talk about and help you through. Today, especially, great subject matter. One of the most important ones. We can talk about the big differentiator between the production subdivision experience, or maybe the resale experience you've had, and building a home on your land. Don will tell us in a moment what that is. But first, as we do each and every week, folks, jump into the chat. Tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process you're in. Again, we are live on Facebook, live on YouTube. We have audiences on both sides. We want to hear from you. We are here to answer your questions. We know how to do this. We're here to make sure you know how to do this. And we have some fantastic content that's going to help you guys out with some of the questions. So Dawn, while people are doing that, again, folks, jump in the chat, where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process you are in. How's your New Year's resolution coming? Are you hanging in there? Are you hanging in? We're 9 days in. Most people fall out by now. So that's okay, whatever. As long as you were mindful of it, you did something. We want to hear from you. Jump in, tell us what's going on. Dawn, what are we talking about today, and why is it even helpful for people?
So like you said, we are talking about what's probably one of the biggest differences if you have built a home or bought, brand new home in a production subdivision. We're talking about the biggest difference between that and what happens when you are building on your own land, and that is site development and land prep. So oftentimes we are dealing with property that's never been touched before. It is virgin land. So we need to figure out how to get all those things that the subdivision builder had already figured out before they even put up their for sale sign. So bringing in site access, what can we build there? Where are the property lines? Making sure everybody knows all of that. How do we get utilities? How do we get an address for this piece of land that 911 can find us if, heaven forbid, something goes wrong? All of that stuff. So we're going to talk about all of that today and all of those details. So very excited. We were seeing lots of questions on Facebook and YouTube this week about that part of the process, questions about utilities, questions about, I'm having some situations with the deed, all of those things. So I thought that this would be a good time to kind of review that and go over this topic again.
Yeah, it's a great topic. It's the one that is really, maybe behind financing, probably the most important one specific to your piece of property. And in some cases, it is the most important one because it's going to have an impact on financing of it. Is the site preparation and access, especially. What are you doing? How do you get in water? What are you doing the wastewater? How do we get power? Who do we talk to about that? Is it the same across the state? Spoiler alert, it is not the same across the state. It varies. Texas is deregulated, which broadly speaking is a very good thing, but it does come with its challenges that it presents. Mainly that challenge being consistency. There's not any. So anyway, so obviously, again, of course, jump into the chat. Tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process you're in. Any questions at all about building a home on your land, we will answer all of them. Specific, of course, we will talk about all things site preparation related, utility access related, power, water, gas, construction drives, culverts, permits, all that kind of good stuff that you probably don't have a whole lot of experience with. Great news, we do. And we've done it all across the state. But if you got questions about financing, questions about construction, questions about design changes, specific floor plans, all of those things we can answer here for you today on Tilson Live, like we do each and every single Tuesday. So while we're doing that, Dawn, who in the world is joining us today?
We got Andy giving us the thumbs up. He is ready to go.
All right, Andy, let's go.
We got Misty. Hello from Mansfield. Hey, Misty.
Welcome back, Misty. Howdy.
We've got Jason. Howdy from Houston. We'll be building
Hey, Jason.
the county. Gig'em.
Gig'em indeed.
We got Ken asking about Willis, Texas.
Of course, absolutely. North Montgomery County.
We've got Gunnar Nacogdoches in the process of getting floor plans we want. Awesome.
Oh, beautiful. All right. Those are great one to tune into.
We've got Lisa saying howdy from Cowtown, building in Magnolia Bee in Bridlegate in Bandera County. The house is framed and in the process of getting the dried-in phase. Awesome.
Very nice. Very cool. Hope you weren't affected by the weird explosion they had downtown Cowtown yesterday. That was a weird deal at the hotel.
That was strange. We got Melissa saying, Livingston, how's the financing for veterans?
So you got a couple of options, Melissa. So the number one being you can still do conventional. So that's an option always. FHA is still an option. And for veterans specifically, VA or a loan that's governed by the Veterans Affairs Department, that is an option exclusively for veterans. It is in fact an entitlement. So it is a loan that is exclusive to veterans of the United States Armed Forces. So that financing wise, though, it's not a whole lot different. Sometimes it is the best case, but not always. So I always encourage our veterans to get all the options available, because in some cases, like for a very low equity situation, like if you need 100% financing, that is something that exclusively the VA can offer you. But most of our customers don't need that because they do own, if not the land itself, they've paid a portion into that land. So in most cases, most of our customers have some level of equity, which kind of opens up other financing options for them if they don't need to do 100%. But because there are fees associated with the VA loans that have to be paid by the customer in order to get it. Doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. That's the way it is. It's a government deal. So anyway, I encourage you to look at all options. There might be a rate savings there, but their rates, they fluctuate just like the other rates do as well. So they are lower than they were. They're higher than they were a year ago, but still not unreasonable. And depending on your level of either disability or various things that were served in, that actually has an impact on what the rate is going to be. So
okay.
Investigate all your options.
Okay. Ken is asking, I've never lived with septic. What are the major issues? So what should we be worried about?
There's a gigantic issue that I love. It's a very good major issue, and that is you don't have a mud tax. So there's no municipal utility district that you're paying taxes to. So the initial is you are saving a significant amount of money over the time you're living in this home on property taxes. A septic system is a miniature sewer system. So OSSF, you'll see it referred to, which is on-site sewage facility. So it's a miniature sewage treatment facility that is wholly contained on your property. The state requires a 2-year maintenance agreement when new ones are installed. So that's automatically included in the price of septic systems. So for the first 2 years, they're going to come out every 3 to 4 months and check the function of it. That they're required by law to do that. So make sure that that the chlorine levels are right, that the sprinkler heads are working, that the aerator's working, that all those various things are going on. So I've lived in 3 different homes in the last 21 years, all with septic systems, and never had issue. I've had to have one of them pumped out in the entire time in the 21 years. So, okay. Not to say you shouldn't have them pumped out every 6 or 7 years. I just usually leave before that rolls around. So. But no issues at all other than significant tax savings. Okay.
We get Christine saying, hi, watching from Tyler, Texas, building a customized Fayetteville C on Lake Fork. Electrical is partially in. Please explain how this recent change and how the GFI circuits work. You reset them from the panel?
So, yeah, but there's also, there will still be 1 or 2 GFIs potentially around the house. So GFI stands for ground fault interrupt, or you'll see GFCI, ground fault current interrupt. They're the same thing, different from arc faults. And you might be asking about arc fault. So GFIs they still have a reset they're tied to, usually in a bathroom, utility room, or garage area.
So when your hair dryer usually sets off.
Yep. And then what you have that's a little more annoying, if you want to talk about things that are annoying, that is the arc faults. And those are typically all your bedrooms are on arc faults. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Doesn't matter what I think about them. That is the rules. And yes, those are and can only be reset from the breaker panel. They are required. It's going to be, they're more difficult to set off than some people think, but any appliances that do a spark, that's typically going to get it. So sometimes using a drill in a bedroom, which I know that sounds like a weird thing, but you could be, drilling in into a stud to mount a TV. And you could find that if it's a drill that plugs into the wall, that does that. Most of them are cordless these days, but you might find that might trip it. A treadmill is one that I have found that's going to trip it. Some vacuum cleaners, depending on the manufacturer, the way that they run, they will trip it. Now, it's not all your hallway breakers and not all your family room breakers. It is bedrooms. But yeah, it's annoying. It's not a big deal usually with TVs or obviously lamps, the various smart devices. I won't say any of their names because they're probably all listening, but you know what I'm talking about. The little ones that start with a G or an A or an S. Those are not going to set them off, but larger appliances and what I have observed, it's ones that have a motor that you see a spark. Those will do it. If you see sparks outside of the appliance, you should quit using it and throw it away. But it's when you see the sparks inside. If you go look at a drill and look at the back of it and spin it, you'll kind of see a little brush going. Not a cordless one, but a plugged-in corded one.
Okay. She's saying she doesn't see any reset buttons on any of the plugs in the bathroom.
There will be there's one somewhere. I promise you. They're not. It's on every single one of them. It's not every one of them. They're usually all tied to one, but there'll be one somewhere. I was looking for mine the other day, and it was in the. Of course, it was in the garage behind my gun safe. Now, luckily, my daughter's hand was small enough to get there behind it and reset it. And it was the GFI for my overhead doors. So it could trip. We had electrical storms, whatever, and it tripped it. So anyway.
Okay. All right. Gary is saying we were already approved. My question is, if the APR was 8% now, and when the home is done and interest is lower, will we get the lower rate?
Yeah, Gary, you're not locking in until the house is finished. So typically our customers lock in usually not even a month before they close, before the home's finished. So yeah, and I would discourage anyone from locking right now. I don't have a crystal ball. Maybe Dawn does, but I do not. But most things I read, aside from a couple of doomsdayers, which I read them too, because you never know who's gonna, it's good to have perspective. You gotta know what the quacks are doing too. There's a truth somewhere in the middle, but it does indicate that rates are going to come down. They've already come down almost a point and a half from their highs, and so. But yeah, they approve you at that, which is good. That's a very conservative number. It's a high number. The good news behind that, the reason I say that, Gary, is because if you can qualify at that number, if it comes down a point and a half, 2 points, you're going to have no issue qualifying. So
right. All right. We've got Will tuning in from Klondike. Hope everyone had a blessed holiday season. You too, Will.
Hope you're staying warm up there, buddy. I bet it's cold in Klondike.
Yeah. We got Lamika. My husband and I are searching for land right now. We want our home budget to stay under $400,000. Can we afford you all?
Can it be done, Dawn? Can it be done?
Yeah. Yeah, that can be done. Lamika, if you go to our website, we actually have the pricing for all of our houses based on the county where you're building. But yeah, that's absolutely doable. You just want to be mindful and kind of reach out to one of our design consultants as you're getting closer to selecting your property, and just make sure that you've got enough room in that budget for the house and the property, that what you want is going to fit and it's going to fit within the budget. We got Ivan saying, question about soil analysis and what kind of pad?
Yeah, so we're going to do a geotechnical investigation, Ivan, on every single home that we build. It's typically after our site evaluation, after our person comes out and helps you place the home where it's going to be, because we require that those, we also prefer and require that those geotechnical investigations be taken from within the footprint of the home. So there are some builders that will just go off either past historical data. A lot of the subdivision builders do that, or they'll come out and just take a sample out of from the ditch, the side of the road, somewhere on the property. We want it to be done inside the footprint of the home, and that's what helps determine not necessarily the kind of pad, but it helps the engineer determine usually beam width, so the concrete beam width, concrete beam depth, cable spacing, those kinds of things, trench or beam spacing between going both directions. So if we need hard points or not, those are all determined based on the geotechnical investigation.
Okay, makes sense. We've got, let's see, Yadira saying, are all those requirements also for building outside of the city?
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're following the International Residential Code is tied within that. It calls out a specific national electric code, whether it's 2009, 2014, 2015, 2017, who knows what it is this year. But it does always lag. So that won't be the 2024 code won't end up being, for instance, we're in January 2024 right now. That won't become a thing code wise until like 2027 or 2029, somewhere in there. But yes, we're going to follow whatever's in the International Residential Code, which is a requirement of the state constitution, the state of Texas. And whatever electric code it's requiring, that's what we're going to do. At least. So now what a city could do, Yadira, is, hey, we require, let's say that the code is NEC 2015, okay, the National Electric Code 2015. A city could come in and say, yeah, that's fine. We require the 2018 National Electric Code. Then we have to comply with that. But as a minimum, yes, what the arc faults and ground faults, that stuff we were just talking about, that is a statewide thing. And there needs to be some level of standard. Like, I'm not all about government. Okay. I like them leaving us alone, but there is something to be said for a standard that builders need to build to and should be held to. And then we have a third party inspection done no matter where we're building, even in counties that don't have any kind of inspection process. Part of the price of the home already includes a third party inspector going out and doing inspections to make sure that we're complying with that, because we're not perfect. And we understand that we're humans and our trades are humans. Customers are humans, and so it could happen that we could miss something, and that's what it's nice to have another set of eyes and be like, hey, this needs to be here, or this should be there, or this needs to be wired this way. So, yes,
makes sense. All right, Jason is asking, with EasyBuy, will I need to make a payment to the bank at some point before the build is complete, or once I qualify, will I still be qualified for the 6 to 9 months it takes to finish the build?
How's that work, Dawn?
So Jason, no, you will not. So as far as make the payment, what we're looking for is 10% equity in the final value of your home. And that is going to be the home value plus the land value. So whatever the third party appraiser comes and says is going to be the final value of your house, we're looking for you to have 10% of that in your land. As long as you have that, you're not going to pay anybody anything except for your $3,000 deposit that you've put down with us when you've signed. And then we're gonna proceed with the build. You're not going to pay us during the build. If you did still owe on the land, you would keep paying on that lien. But you're keeping yet that loan until the end. So you'll pay that as normal. You will only, your qualification with the bank is contingent on making sure that when we finish the home, everything's still basically the same, that your credit and your financial position is in the same condition or better than when they approved you to begin with. So please don't go buy a new car. Don't do any of that while you're waiting for us to build the home, because they are going to check again when you get to the end, just to make sure. It's usually about 3 or 4 days before. They always do a final check no matter what when you're getting a mortgage. If it has been a little bit longer than that, they might do it earlier just to kind of double check and make sure everything's good. But no, you're not paying anybody until we sign off and give you the final keys to the house and you're moving in. Let's see. We've got CJ tuning in from Waco.
What's up, CJ?
CJ.
Don't forget your wife could be watching. Just throw it out there.
Yes. She's watching. Ken is saying, using plans from a site such as architectural design, thoughts, do you offer plans and changes to those plans, the most cost-effective options? So we like third-party sites for ideas, but not necessarily getting too attached to those, because the problem with a national, or in most cases international site, is that they aren't necessarily designing for Texas, or they're designing for a different climate. And a lot of times they'll say that. So we're good with them for ideas. We are going to redraw anything that you bring us before we build it to make sure that everything is done to Texas codes and to the way that we do things. We do have our own plan database if you've been to our website, and we make whatever changes you would like to make to it. So like I was mentioning before, on our site, depending upon where you're building, you can sort it, select the county, and we have all the starting prices for the unincorporated areas, so meaning you're not in a city, but the unincorporated areas of the county. So you can kind of take a look through that and see what our plans are. You could sort them by number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms. You can sort them by price to kind of get an idea of what's going to fit with you. As far as cost-effective options, we always say start with the smaller plan and add the features that you want, rather than trying to start with a big plan and make it smaller, because it's not efficient to do that. And also make sure that you find the house that, like, focus more on the floor plan when you're starting than what the outside of the home looks like, because we can work with the outside of the floor plan. It's harder to go the other way, just because of the room layout and how it affects the outside.
And then I'll say this on the architect side, and nothing against architects, a lot of respect for them, great accomplished professionals. With that said, in my experience, it is really an unnecessary role to involve at most people's price point.
Yeah,
until
that's
you
fair.
get into the really multi-million-dollar homes, and even then, pretty rare. There's residential designers that can do it just as effectively, maybe more cost effectively than an architect. You don't need to get an architect involved for most residential projects. In fact, it's going to be insanely few residential projects that you need to get an architect, a true licensed architect involved. So it's almost never going to make it more cost effective to do that.
Okay.
They draw beautiful things, though.
They do. They draw beautiful things.
But they don't have to source those things or get them built in Lampasas, Texas.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
We get
there.
we got Gary asking, what about the placement of the home? How do they help with that? I want it to look right.
Well, so you play a major role in that, but yes, we come out there to guide you. So one of the very first things that happens after you pick which home that you want and make the changes to it and do the deposit, start the paperwork, is we meet you out at the site. Our site evaluation team comes out and does exactly that. They evaluate the site. So they help you with placement. Part of the stuff we're going to talk about today is, what are the setback lines? What are the property lines? What direction can the house face? What direction must the house face? Can it be a side load garage, front load garage? How's the driveway going to work? How the utility is going to come in? It looks like the septic's going to go back this way. It looks like water's coming from here. Your neighbor's about this high above grade. Do you want to be square with the road? Do you want to be squared with your metal building you already have there? Do you want to be squared with your neighbor? So we help you with all of that stuff. Goes out to the side. We have laser beams and tape measures and all kinds of cool stuff.
All right.
And really, you can do all of it.
What'd you say?
You can do all of it. Like this is the most important tool they have.
That's fair. All right. So these are all great questions that are coming in, but do you want to go ahead? Let's go ahead and start.
We could just turn it into.
Well, I feel like there might be people here who are actually here to see the whole developing your land.
I hear you.
Let's
I hear you.
Get into that, and we can pick up with the questions as we'll check back in. But let's go ahead and get into the presentation. All right. So we're on. There we go. We'll skip all the intro, guys. I think we covered. All right. Pre-construction responsibilities. The biggest difference between building on your land and building in a existing community is the word your. Your is the operative word. So there are going to be some things that we're going to need to come to you and help you kind of navigate through, but you are going to need to be the one to do it because it's your property. We don't take ownership of it. So there are things that we need you to handle because we don't have the permissions to do them. The first is that 911 address. You're going to request the 911 address from your county, and we can give you the instructions on how to do that specific to your county. In some cases, the permit application filings, their counties are getting a little bit better about this and are allowing more builders to apply on your behalf. But in some counties, we may need you to actually deliver that paperwork as the property owner. So we're going to help you get all of that fill it out for you, but we might need you to file the actual permit application. Utility setups. This is the biggest one that's going to come down to you. We do need you. Because when you are allowing that electric provider to come onto your property, you may need to be granting easements, and we can't sign away rights to your property. So you're going to establish those accounts. You're going to grant all those easements. We're going to help you by giving you the information on who to contact and kind of ease you along the way, but this is going to be the biggest owner responsibility that we absolutely need you guys to help us take care of. Other responsibilities, there's some items that are not included in the base home price that you could choose to do instead of us. And these are things like the site clearing, the septic systems, that construction access that we talked about, the culverts, all of that stuff. We have some customers who really, really love to do those things. So, and some that are like, nope, you guys do it all. So that's why those things are not included in our base prices. So you can determine what you want to do versus what you want us to do. So before you build, there are some necessary items that we're going to need to start, and I will talk about all of the important documents. Eric's going to deep dive into the different utilities and the stuff about site access, and then I will talk about the site plan and preparation. All right, so important documents. These are going to fall into 3 categories. The first is your deed and your title insurance. The second is going to be your plat and survey, and then your deed restrictions. So on the next page, so the deed to your property, this is your proof of ownership. So we are going to need an official deed. And in order to be considered the official document, it should list the grantor and the grantee. So the seller and the buyer. You should be the buyer. It needs to be your name. Whoever's name is on our conditions of sale has to be on that deed as the buyer. And we need listed who is giving the land to you, who the seller is. It's going to contain the property description. So this could be the address, this could be this, how it's referred to in the survey, but some type of property description telling us where this property is, how large it is, all of that information. It may contain the agreed upon sales price, but that's not necessary, but it could be in there. The seller's signature must be notarized in order for it to be official, and it also has to be recorded with the county in order to be valid. So that county stamp should be a part of that deed. Where it says, yes, this was recorded in book, blah, 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 on page, blah, 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 and the county knows that this property has changed hands.
Yes. Your mom and papa telling you that you own it is not sufficient. No matter how great your mom and papa are, it must be recorded to be valid.
Yes, absolutely. Title insurance. We highly recommend whenever you are having a property, you are acquiring property from another person, even if it's from Mimi and Papa, please make sure that you have a title insurance policy. This title insurance policy is guaranteeing that all of the times that property changed hands, it was done cleanly. So they're going to go back to the beginning and make sure that every time property exchanged hands, the title was clear and it was the correct owner transferring it to the new owner. This just helps you in the future in case somebody comes back and was like, hey, I installed this plumbing line 2 years ago. You still owe me money, coming back and trying to get that money from you, or filing a lien that you didn't know about on the property. So it's just always a good idea to get these things cleaned up. And you can request that policy from the title company that is actually putting together the deed for you as soon as the earnest money contract is signed. So as soon as you start this transaction, go ahead, open title, ask for that policy just to make sure that everything is correct and you're protected in the future. The last thing we're going to need is the survey. So this is an example of a boundary survey, and it is just a drawing of the property. There is one thing we will need you to do on site and verify, and that is make sure that everywhere you see a corner on your property drawing, you can find that corner pin, that they are able to be located and flagged. So we have clear sight lines of those. And what the boundary survey is going to show is it's going to have all your actual property boundaries, as well as some dotted lines and different things. So it's going to show your building lines. So where are you allowed to put a permanent structure on this property? It's going to note any easements that may have been granted to utility companies or anyone else, and any required setbacks. So how far from the property line or from the road does a permanent building have to be? Things like that. It's going to give all of the dimensions of the property. It should also show your flood zone information on it. And most importantly, you're looking for that licensed professional land surveyor, the registered professional land surveyor seal and signature to make sure that it is a valid survey.
Okay.
And then lastly, if you are, you're going to find when you go to build your house, you may be subject to some deed restrictions and covenants. These are going to vary based on where your property is located. There tend to be more if you're in the nicer the community looks, the nicer the monument is when you enter the community, probably the more of these you have. So always when you're going to acquire property, get a copy of those because you're agreeing to all of the restrictions by buying that property. But it's going to designate any type of home design requirements. So they usually, what we're used to seeing are things about minimum square footages. If you are somewhere that has water, lakefront, that type of thing, riverfront, there could be a maximum height because they don't want the buildings closer to the water to impede someone else's view. There often are required materials, so they'll dictate what types of siding can be used. They might tell you that you need to have a certain percent masonry, and they'll define their definition of masonry, and also what types of roofing can be used. They'll often list a garage requirements, minimum number of bays you can have, maximum number of bays. Does it have to be detached? Does it have to be attached? What direction do the garage doors have to face? All of those kinds of things would be covered in that. It's also going to tell us any plan approval guidelines. So the more requirements there are, the more likely there is that there's a committee that's going to review it and make sure that they like your colors and all of those things. They might also have some requirements in there for construction, including any type of necessary deposits. Does it require a dumpster? Is there a maximum amount of time that construction can take? Those types of things. So it's very important to have those documents, or we can help you locate them as well. But definitely my number one tip for anybody buying land, read the whole thing. Because like I said, you are agreeing to all of these rules when you buy the property. So we don't get to complain about it later.
Yeah, they run with the land is the colloquial real estate phrase. They are attached to this land no matter who buys it, sells it, whatever. These covenants, these restrictions. So a covenant is an agreement. That's what a covenant means. You're agreeing to them, like Don said. So just because you buy the land, you're like, oh, it's 2,000 square foot minimum. We only need like 1,800 square feet. Like it's 2,000 square foot minimum. That's a deal.
Right.
That is an agreement you have made by closing on this piece of property. You've agreed that you will do that. And again, they're good from the philosophical standpoint of protecting property values, right? You're not going to have the 69 Camaro on blocks in the front yard, right? No pig farms, no trailers, things like that. But with restrictions come restrictions. And some of us don't deal well with being restricted, but some people do. So they're there to protect your property values. Just understand them before you go to the closing table.
Absolutely.
Okay. Pausing for questions. We're rolling on.
We can pause for questions.
Okay.
Pull it back up. All right. We've got Julie who is sharing. I love that everything you say is going to happens. I love my building process and I love my Tilson home. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Appreciate that.
Ken is asking, should I purchase the land first or can you walk and give advice on the best lot before purchase?
We can look at it, but there's not a whole lot we can do on the land before you purchase it. So for instance, we can't do any of the geotechnical investigation, which is really the most telling thing. That can't be done on the property before you purchase it. Or most owners aren't going to let you do that. It's a pretty invasive process. Big piece of equipment out there, drill 15, 20 foot deep holes on their property, and they're typically not going to let you do that. But I mean, really, all you really need to avoid, like Don's already talked about, the title issues. So you can open title on a piece of property, and then floodplain. I would avoid floodplain. Unless it's a large tract that only small portions, like if you're getting a 15, 20 acre tract and the far back corner is in the floodplain because there's a creek that runs through it, that's fine. But if it's a 1 acre, 2 acre lot and the floodplain is on there, I'd be kind of sketchy about that. Apart from that, if it's where you want to be, it's probably worth dealing with the things we're going to need to overcome to build a house on it. So.
Okay, makes sense. And then you're asking our thoughts on spray foam.
Yep, we believe in it 100%. So it's got to be done right, though. I mean, so you'll hear all kinds of things on the internet, see all kinds of things. I saw one the other day that this was a builder in Texas. They spray foam the attics, but they do not believe in spray foaming the walls. Only use bat or blown or bibs. And their concern was, how do you get fresh air into the house? Well, he's right. You put a fresh air intake on it, which is what we do on every house.
Right. You bring
fresh air intake, dehumidifiers. These are all, and it all goes in the building science, the building envelope. So sending all that sharing all that information with the various trades. None of this stuff should be designed in a vacuum. So the HVAC contractor needs to know what kind of insulation you're using. They need to know what kind of windows, ceiling heights, square footage of glazing. Everybody needs to know everything that everybody's using so that everything can be designed and work properly as a system. So what we believe is the spray foam seals the house up better than anything else, which the number one hurdle of energy efficiency in the area of Texas that we build in is losing that expensive air that you're paying to heat and cool. So it's not that it gets extremely cold and we're needing to protect ourselves from cold weather. This is like as cold as it gets right now. It's going to be like in the 20s and 30s across the state for the next week or so. That's it. Okay. Well, that's not broadly speaking across the nation, that's not a big deal. So what we're trying to do is prevent you from losing that air that the other 9 or 10 months out of the year that you're paying to cool, from it seeping out around windows, around doors, and through corners of the house or attics and things like that. And spray foam is by far the best solution for that. But you do have to do it properly. So be sure it's a comprehensive system. Fresh air intakes, dehumidifiers, all of it working together as a system.
All right. We got Jason saying that his land is paid for, but he doubts it's worth the 10% equity. Would a VOF suffice for the rest?
Yeah, so assuming a VOF means verification of funds, it can. We can also even just take a deposit sometimes, Jason. But you might also be surprised on what the land comes in valued at. So I wouldn't sell it short. Wait till that appraisal comes in. The appraisal is going to come in. The good news is you'll know before we ever drive a nail exactly what your appraised value is before we ever start construction. So you'll know for sure if you need to put a deposit down, if you want to put a down payment down, you can do that if you'd like to, or there's options, but
all right.
We wouldn't get too worked up about it just yet.
Yeah. All right. Daniel is asking, is there any way ceilings can be raised on some? Absolutely. Yes. We raise ceilings quite often. A lot of our plans already have options to raise ceilings in certain rooms. And then we can also work with your design consultant and get it added. As long as there is space in the attic above to raise the ceiling, it shouldn't be a problem. If there's not enough space already there, it may impact the roof line of your house, but it's something that we can absolutely do. And Daniel is in Eagle Lake, Texas.
Oh, very cool. Pretty place.
All right. Let's see. Barbie is saying, considering my real estate career to new home sales, I'm here to learn. This is great info.
Hey.
Well, thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to the bright side.
Yes. And she is in Austin.
All right.
And then we've got somebody from YouTube asking, are all of these documents easy to get?
So certainly deed restrictions, title commitments, those are pretty easy to get. The one I say that's probably not as easy, the survey is going to be, it costs money. To get a boundary survey with corner pins located on a piece of property, it takes time and it takes a little bit of money, not a lot of money, but a little bit of money. But it does take time. It can take, depending on where you are in the state, 3 to 6 weeks to get that part done. But none of them are impossible to get. They're all pretty simple to get. And again, most of them are public record.
Yeah. Then they're also asking, do I need to have a septic tank in before and these conditions are met? So no.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, don't do that. Don't do that. So your septic system, and Eric will get into this in his section, but it's going to be specifically designed for your house. So that is something you'll want to get into an agreement with us beforehand, and then we'll get that septic system designed, and then you'll coordinate with your builder on when that septic system needs to go in. Ideally, we would like it put in as late as possible. We want all the heavy equipment off the site before you bring in the septic system, because it can be a little bit more delicate, and Eric will go into more details on that.
Briefly.
Gina's saying we're hoping to restart the conversation to build in B County.
Welcome back.
On hold in 2023 due to some issues and county plat issues that had to be addressed before committing. Hoping 2024 will be our year. Oh, that's awesome.
We've waited 92 years on you, Gina. We'll wait again. No problem.
Yeah.
We're hanging in
there.
We'll
be here. Lori is asking, is there ever an instance when a water company would not give you a meter? If they deny you, is there a way to fight that?
Great question, Lori. That is, you have hit, boy, we don't have time for this, but this is going to be the sticking point in Texas, particularly the Texas Hill Country, for the foreseeable future, for the rest of my career, for sure. And probably that of my children's career. But if they're, masochists and want to get into home building. But the answer is yes. They can deny you. They have a capacity and there's different entities involved. You got groundwater conservation people. You've got Public Utilities Commission. I mean, there's a lot of the way that it's set up. Is it a MUD? Is it a community well? Is it regulated by a river authority, St. Jacinto River Authority, Trinity River Authority, Lower Colorado River Authority? There's a lot of different fiefdoms that control groundwater and subterranean water. And so, yes, long story short, they can deny you, and there's not a whole lot you can do to fight it. Sometimes they'll tell you it's a waiting period. There are some cities that have put hiatuses on permits at various times. I know Bastrop put a hiatus on permits for a while. The city of Dripping Springs put a hiatus on permits for a while. The city of Magnolia, Texas put hiatus. I think they may still have one on building permits. I don't know for sure. But yeah, the answer is if they can't service it, if they believe that they have it's being overdeveloped and they can't get water to everyone who's going to move in, they will not sell a tap, or they can deny you a tap for the time being. It's not forever, but they can do that.
Okay.
So it's a good question to ask when you're going in, but one more reason to not build in a city if you can help it.
Yeah. Jason is saying that, he checked on if any new taps were allowed, was told yes, but asked for a water availability letter.
There you go. That's great advice, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we've got Suzette who's asking, how long on average will a home be how long is it going to take to
8
be
months.
complete when the ground is started? Thank you.
Yeah, 7 to 9 months. I tell people 8. I mean, our goal right now is, I think, 225 days, which is about 7.5 months. I think that's what Mr. Ordino has said. So we're wanting it done when ground's broken. We want it done in less than 9 months, less than 8 if we can.
All right. Ken is asking, I may have missed it. Do you carry the construction loan, or do I get it for you to draw?
Give her good news,
so Ken, that EasyBuy program that we were talking about before is a no construction loan program. So if you went that route and you've got that 10% equity, then no, you would not have a construction loan. We do offer some programs that if you don't have the 10% equity and aren't able to bring money to the table to make up the difference, you can do a construction loan, and we have some programs to do that, and you can work with our team on that. But for the majority of our customers, no, there is no construction loan, and we pay for it out of our pocket. And then our friend from YouTube is sharing that they are in Mansfield, Texas. Awesome.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, let's talk about utilities.
Let's talk utilities. Folks, keep dropping your questions into the chat. We will answer them. Whether you can stay with us longer or not, we will stay and answer your questions, or at least I will. I don't know if Dawn can. I guess Dawn has to stay if I'm going to stay, because she's the administrator and moderator.
The whole show kind of goes away if I do.
Producing the show. So she gets tired of me, she'll just end it. All right, utilities, power. Most important one, and probably the toughest one to get right this second. Maybe second to water in some places, but power. Power is a big one. You want to start having these conversations early on in your process, even before you go to build. But we can help you through this. So what we got here, some different examples. Most of where we're going to be building is regulated by co-ops or cooperatives, which were set up a long time ago in Texas as little small farming communities would go in together. They would go in as a cooperative. They would pool money together to build infrastructure. So this is not like your TXUs, your Center Points, your Encores. Those are those, and we build in those areas too. They're a little bit different, but broadly speaking, all power kind of works the same. We got to figure out a way to get power from the source to where the home's going to sit. We are going to work off some type of temporary power. Sometimes we work off the permanent power. These are some examples. So going from left to right, the one on the far left is a very, very old school example, but still used today. You see a transformer way in the back, and then you've got a certain number of poles. This is overhead power. A temporary pole has been installed here, typically by our electrician, and then a meter loop is put up here. So we install the temporary pole. This would have been sitting here, and then the power company would come back from this transformer, set these 3 poles, and then tie into our temporary pole, put this meter in, and then we would work off of this. There's some outlets down there, and then later we would do permanent power. Okay, so the rest of these are showing you different types of permanent power. One is kind of a hybrid on the far right, but the next one you see here, we see this a lot in the Hill Country. This is specific to Pedernales Electric Co-op, which there's 4 or 5 of those little fiefdoms around the Hill Country. Very common. This is a rack system. So we call it because it literally looks like kind of a computer rack, big one outside. So this will be permanently somewhere on the property. So keep that in consideration. The power is coming from usually an underground pedestal somewhere on the other side of these cedar trees, or probably up towards the road somewhere. So power is coming in here on this left side. You see this large conduit coming up. They've put the meter in, so power is passing through that meter, which is how they measure it or meter it. That's what they charge you for. And then it goes here into a series of breakers and things like that, and comes out, and this is what goes to the house.
Okay.
And so what they'll also install here is a nice little couple of outlets to work off of. These are service outlets, so you can work on this out here. We can do temporary power off here, but this is set in concrete somewhere on the property. Typically, our electrician's having to do this, or your electrician you're hiring is doing this. This is not the power company doing this. They'll come out and inspect everything, of course, and tell you they don't like it, but they're not going to install it for you. Moving on to a different one. This is a Mid-South Electric Co-op situation. So this is actually overhead power coming in across the property, but they come from a transformer up here that's kind of out of frame that comes down and to this pedestal. And in this case, the cooperative does in fact install this pedestal, and there is an outlet. Actually, there's one on either side of this particular pedestal. And then same thing, power is coming in here, and then it's going out. In this case, to the barn and to a house. So this is a 400 amp service. So it's got 200 amps going to the house and 200 amps going to a barn. Pretty common application, very clean. And again, the power company did all of this work, and then the owner is responsible from here to the house or to the barn. Finally, on the far right, this is what's referred to in the hill country, especially as a member-owned pole. So this is just an example, again, of overhead power coming in. You can kind of barely see a weatherhead. The lighting's a little dark. You got a meter here, and then a service here, and the service can remain here. And then we put a sub panel on the house, or the actual panel on the house, or this can be moved to the house and just the meter stay out there, whichever way the customer or the co-op prefers to do it. So a lot of options. We help walk you through that. Next one is water. Again, this one is becoming more and more of a challenge. Not so much in the North Texas and Gulf Coast regions, but when you start to get west of 35 now, this is because of the growth that they've had in population. This is becoming more and more of a struggle out there. So keeping up with the development. So let's face it, West Texas is desert. It just is. So there's going to be two types: you have a water well or water meter. If you're doing a water well, this is an example of a lot of people think this is the well itself. This is actually just a pressure tank. Like a bladder that keeps pressure. The well itself is actually down here, this little 4-inch or 6-inch portion that goes down into the ground. These are two separate pictures. It doesn't go to this. It can be a little confusing, but this is the actual well. This is just a pressure tank. Sometimes it's located right here where the well is. Sometimes it can be located in a 100 feet away. Doesn't really matter. This just keeps pressure. This is air. The top third or top fourth of this is just an air bubble that keeps pressure on your water lines. And then this is an example of a water meter. So whether it's community water or city water, they're going to let you tap into it, and then they're going to put a meter on it to measure how many gallons that you're using. So that's how that works. You get two options when it comes to getting rid of the water that goes through your house. So water is going to come into your house, and then we got to figure out how we get water out of the house. So you get your wastewater, you got either sewer system or an OSSF on-site sewage facility. So either a sewer system or septic system. 90% of our customers are going to be doing a septic system. So just the 8 or 9 or 10% that build inside of a city are going to have a sewer system. And actually, even some of the cities we build in don't have sewer out to where our customers are building yet, so they still do a septic system. So in this case, it is going to require a permit. It's very simple. They require design. There's regulations by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ, that dictate how close it can be to the home or to your neighbor's home or to a water well or your neighbor's water well. And our designer takes all that into consideration and designs a septic system that's going to work for your property, where the spray heads can be, if it's going to be conventional, if it's going to be aerobic, is it a drip system, low dose, whatever it needs to be, given where it is, very specific to where you're building and your proximity to a body of water. There's going to be a permit that goes with that. Not a big process, typically speaking, but either a registered sanitarian or a PE, a professional engineer, can design it. I recommend a registered sanitarian. They do them every day. It's all they do. And most of them do make you submit the plans too, but what they're trying to design it to is how many people could be living in the home. So if it's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath home, it's kind of a weird one. They don't really care how many bathrooms it has. Whether it's a 4-bedroom, 1 bath or 4-bedroom, 4 bath, doesn't really matter to the county or to TCEQ. They care about the number of bedrooms. So how many people could be using it? Well,
how many people are flushing it?
We're empty nesters. Doesn't matter. You could sell it one day to people with foster kids, and it's getting used a lot because you're washing and you're doing dishwashers and you're doing showers. Ideally, you're all that kind of good stuff that goes into it. They take that in consideration. So based on your soil, a perk or percolation test, that'll tell them how many gallons per day and how many gallons per day you'll be using and what the absorption rate of the soil is to absorb that. And it involves how many hours of sun that can evaporate that and all kinds of good stuff that you don't have to worry about. It's all calculated for you. Finally, you got 3 options when it comes to heating your home and cooking stuff. And heating your water. Those are natural gas, propane, or all electric. So for those of you that are all electric, you can ignore this slide. If you're going to be doing gas, you got 2 options. If you have natural gas in your area, which is pretty rare for most of our customers, but it does happen, you can tap into that natural gas. So they put a gas meter on there and you go from there. Otherwise, most of our customers that do end up having gas have a propane tank. And it can be above ground or it can be buried. You can rent the tanks. You can buy the tanks. Totally up to you. We just need to know if you're going to be doing propane, natural gas, or if you want to be all electric, and what all appliances you want on there. Some people want their water heaters on there, but not their furnaces. They want to have heat pump, which is very popular, and we do most of our houses. Or some people want gas furnaces. Some people want gas cooking. Some people want electric cooking. So some people want gas just for the fireplace. We can do all those different situations, whatever works for you. Very, very important part of the process to get all this other stuff done is site access. So for example, I keep talking about the site evaluation, the geotechnical investigation. We got to get a drilling rig onto your property to do those soil tests. If you do a water well, they have to get a drilling rig onto your property to drill a water well. We need lumber trucks out there. We need concrete trucks out there. We need dump trucks out there. So we do require all weather access. We can help you with this. We can make recommendations. But this is not a place where skimping is going to save you any money because you're going to end up spending it in the long run. And we have entered officially the time of year where this is really, really important. When it's August, September, and it hadn't rained in 2 months and we can drive all over your property, all the ditches, no problem. That is not now. We cannot work on your property if we don't have good all-weather access with some type of a culvert, if necessary, to cross a ditch, which is just a pipe in the road that we can drive over top of. And again, the county, based on your address that you get at the very beginning, like Don talked about, they will, based on that, they can tell you what size, do you need a 12-inch, 18-inch, 236 inches? How big is the ditch and what size culvert do you need? Again, we can help with all of this, or you can have it done. In some cases, the county will set the culvert. If you buy the culvert and buy a load of the rock, the county will set it for you. That happens a lot because the county is ultimately responsible for flood control. So you want to make sure that the culvert, slopes the correct direction of the road. Otherwise, if it slopes against the road, you've created a dam, which is counterproductive to flood mitigation. So don't want to do that.
Makes sense.
So site planning, like I said, one of the first things we're going to do is a site evaluation or a stakeout. So literally drive stakes in the ground, or if you're in the hill country, we're going to drive rebar in the ground where we can, or sometimes we spray paint rocks. That happens too. If that's all that's out there, we're going to draw you a site plan. Then we're going to, talk about any necessary clearing or groundwork, culverts, and things like that need to be done. We're going to help you with the placement, like we talked about earlier, based on where your neighbor is, based on where the road is, based on where a building is, electricity, trees, all that stuff's going to come into play. So we're going to decide the best placement for you. We're going to help, determine any kind of additional needs. We're going to shoot the grades, find out what the out of level is, what direction how drainage is going to be done initially, and how you're going to maintain that positive drainage, any kind of access needs. Excuse me. Like the micro machines, man. And then measure how far what the water hookups are going to be away from there. And we all leave with homework. So we're going to give you a sheet of paper of things you got to go do. Again, some of the things that Dawn talked about earlier that we can't do because we don't own the property, like set up your electrical account, set up your water account. Those are things that you can report back to us on, or we can help walk you through, or certainly don't mind jumping on a call with you or your electrical provider, for instance, and answering any questions. But when it does come to, like Don said, dedicating them a 20-foot wide easement for them to run their power underground or overhead, that is something that only you can give them permission to do. From that, we will devise a site plan. They're not all printed like this. There was a requirement of this particular subdivision. This was Vintage Oaks out in New Braunfels. They required a scaled drawing proving that you were behind all the setback lines, behind all the property lines, where the septic was going to go, where the spray field is, where the AC compressors are. So this is kind of a worst case scenario of what they'd want for one. Most of the time, a hand drawn one is perfectly fine. If we're comfortable that we're not on any property lines or building lines, we go from there. But some subdivisions, like Don was saying, the deed restrictions or the Architecture Control Committee is going to require a scaled drawing showing all those things. And then, of course, they're going to want to be sure we comply. We did talk about permanent structure earlier. I want to be sure that we're all clear on what that is. So permanent structure can't encroach on any building lines or setback lines. That is house, garage, outbuildings, and pools. That is not typically fence, driveway, sidewalks. Those things, as you can see, can and must cross building lines. So I know it's hard to, sometimes it's confusing to think that driveways aren't permanent, but they're really nothing's permanent. It can all be removed. But driveways are not considered permanent structure like a house, garage, outbuilding, or pool is. Next thing we're going to do is get the site cleared. And either we're doing it or you're hiring a contractor to do it. Obviously, we want to keep as many trees as possible. That's why you bought the place, but some will likely have to come out. And it's root balls and all. We want everything, all the organic material out of the footprint, at least of the footprint of the home. If it's outside the slab area, we're indifferent to that. But if it's inside the footprint of the home, it's going to need to all come out. And then we're going to do groundwork. So set the forms, get the forms filled with material. Any dirt work that needs to be done. Some areas we're doing dirt pads. Some areas we're building to grade or setting the forms right there at grade. Some areas we're doing a cut and backfilling. So it just depends on where you are. And then finally, then actual work can begin. After all the prep work we've just talked about for 3 months, then we can come in and actually start doing concrete work. So set the forms. This is a slab that's being poured. This is a boom. So pump truck, concrete trucks back up. They dump concrete into this boom. It pumps it out so it can be filled with the forms, all that kind of good stuff. Now, we talked about Dawn. Do we have questions?
We do.
Oh, good. I kind of like being surprised by the questions. Let me see them.
All right. First, we have John sharing that he is 20 today and it's his birthday. So happy birthday, John.
Congratulations, John. Happy birthday.
Jason is asking, will it cost me extra to run power underground as opposed to an overhead connection?
So I know you didn't know this, Jason, but when you asked this question over the weekend and then Amanda reached out and asked for it, you actually got my answer yesterday. It depends on your provider. So if your provider will run overhead for free, then that's hard to beat. You can't beat free. Or I can't beat free. Maybe. I guess if they paid you to do it, that'd be the only way.
They could pay you, yeah.
They could. They're not going to, but they could. So that most of them don't, though. Most of them for overhead, they charge by the pole. So maybe a certain number of poles are included, 1, 3, whatever, and then they charge you by the pole. The underground, we include 50 feet of underground electric already. I know you'll hear us say 60 feet, and some salespeople are going to pull their hair out. I already did that. I got none left. You said 60 feet. It's 60 feet. It is 60 feet of conduit and wire, but you're going up the house and you're going into the pole, transformer or up the pole. So that means there's 10 feet right there at least. So I say 50 feet, okay, because we have 50 feet of wire line too. So 50 feet of electrical between point A and point B is included. If your pole's 20 feet tall, by the way, guess what? That's 20 feet of your 50 feet. Now you have 30. So we can play these math games all day long, as long as they're 50 or less. So if it's more than that, if it's going to be significantly further than that, it could cost you extra. But we have a price per lineal foot depending on the county you're building in. Your local design center can give you a better idea of what that price would be. And we have options for conduit, wire, and everything for aluminum and for copper. Yes, I said dangerous aluminum wire. Oh my gosh, you're fine. Aluminum wire is fine, especially for large gauge wire like you're talking about for your house. You're talking about number 2 or number 4 or even number 6 wire. You don't have to worry about it because you are tightening down in the panel itself and where the meter can is going, where the meter is actually going to plug into with like ratchet wrenches. Okay, so you're going to get a really good tight connection. I have aluminum wire running from my service to my house on the last 2 houses I've done, and here I am. Okay, I'm alive, and my whole family is, and we're very lucky. So don't let the internet scare you. At least not in that way. It'll scare you in other ways. Let it scare you there, but don't let it scare
Kathy
you.
is saying she's good with free overhead because it means a larger decorating budget.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. So, but it sounds like decor is important to her, which means if you look out your back window and you see overhead poles, is that what you had in mind?
Yeah, is that important to you?
Anyway, it really, luckily you got enough runway right now to price it both ways and decide if it's that big of a deal to you. The other thing about it being run overhead, you don't have to worry about ever running into it with a trencher or a shovel or anything else like that. Like, it's there.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
All right. Ken was asking if we can connect them with someone to discuss building with us. And I just want to point out, I did send you some information in the comments. I give you a link and also the phone number where you can reach our new home specialist. They would be happy to help you. And then Ken is also asking our thoughts on solar power.
Save your money. Spend it somewhere else. You're not going to save any money doing solar. My opinion. Unpopular opinion. And we're in the winter months too right now. It's sunny like today, but it's not sunny every day. And it's certainly not sunny half the day. So, yeah, I mean, really the technology is not there for a significant cost savings unless you're getting paid some gigantic rebate from the government, which I think those kind of all either ran out or are being phased out because everybody was doing it. And the government, shocker, didn't have the money to pay everybody to do that. So it's not a big cost saving. I don't like having holes in the roof, and you can't get away from that. You have to put holes in the roof to do solar. I don't like that long term. So
okay, makes sense.
They're great for batteries for gates and for like deer feeders. Good use of solar.
All right. Christy is asking, we will be building 800 feet from the road gate. Do we have to do a construction drive the entire distance?
Yes. Well, someone does. You don't have to, but someone does. Yeah, we got to get from the road all the way to the build site within 20 feet of where the slab's going to be.
So you need to do 780 feet at least.
That's right.
Because what we commonly say, like, it's no problem for us to get our trucks on your property. It's getting it off. That's the challenge. So we need to have the full length. They've got to get all of that equipment to exactly where your home is being built. So you do need to do the full length. Ashley is saying hello from New Jersey. We break ground in 13 days. Awesome.
Congratulations.
Lamika is asking, can you all build a lake type home, but not on the lake, if that makes sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to want to be sure what you mean by lake type home, but I'm assuming typically that means a lot of glass, a lot of views out the back, and that's what probably 90% of our floor plans are is big views out the back. Cathedral. I think cathedral ceiling with big windows up high.
Big windows, yeah.
That's what I think when I think of a lake home.
Looking to maximize the view. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Right. And that is the last question I see.
Man, not too bad. So yeah, folks, obviously, thank you for jumping in and asking all these. I know we've had some crazy amount of seminars going on that are very well attended. Dawn, what else is going on?
So we have 2 seminars this weekend in Waco and in Bernie. They're both doing locations, both doing seminars. We actually have 2 opportunities this month to see a customer home under construction. So we do have one in the Sealy area that's going to be this weekend. That one is full, but you can sign up to be put on the wait list in case someone cancels. We will call you and get you on that list. And then there will also be one next weekend on the Richland Chambers Reservoir. So nice. Very excited about that one. So that's good opportunity to see some lakefront property in the home that we're doing that. And that one is our Cedar Creek plan. So it's actually a 2-story. Nice. So that'll be nice.
Very cool. Yep. So we got Still working on trying to get the 2 models out of the ground in Angleton. The weather has been, well, January-ish. So that's still going down. We are still rocking and rolling in the days we can on the Republic Grand Ranch model, the Lone Star. So make an appointment time to see those. That's going to be getting very close. We're going to start able to take people through them hard hat wise. So very excited about that. Obviously, the journey doesn't have to end here. We have a YouTube channel that's got hundreds of hours of content on there. We've got Instagram page. We've got website that is award-winning, front porch of Tilson Homes. We got 12 design centers with model homes, with the exception of Angleton, open 7 days a week. We love to sit down with you guys, and obviously, we wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for y'all and your families. So that's really why we're here. What's Jason saying? What we got now?
Yeah, Jason's thanking us for you guys really know your product. I'm impressed by that. Thank you for answering my questions, even if I already got a reply. We are always here to answer your questions.
No problem, Jason. I am.
Odds are, if you have the question, other people do too. So
for sure. Yeah, I'm a great one-trick pony. Absolutely.
Gary is asking if we've done a Brazoria model yet.
So we have not, Gary, but if you checked out the Magnolia, it's really, really similar. Yeah. So the DNA of the Brazoria is based almost completely in the Magnolia, with all the modifications, kind of modernization of the Magnolia floor plan.
It was the most popular options that are usually selected with the
That's
Magnolia.
Right. Yep. So yeah, find us on any of those platforms. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the website, design centers. We got staff there in 7 days a week that are there to help you guys make the changes, price it out. We do the upfront desktop pricing. We do the EasyBuy program. If you are looking to do some type of one-time closed construction loan, VA, 100% financing, we can help you with that as well. Yep. Oh, we got the banner across the bottom. God dang, you think I've been doing this for a month or two. So yeah, folks, engage with us. That's why we're here. That's why Dawn and I do this, is so that y'all can become more familiar with the process, increase that familiarity, and decrease the friction. It's supposed to be a fun process. So we're just here to help make it a little bit easier for you, answer those questions so that you're that much more confident in your decision for you and your family. So when will the model be done in Republic? A while. It's going to be, so it'll be after June. It'll be after June.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's gonna take a little time.
Yeah, and there's multiple buildings or multiple structures. So there's the house, there's a casita, we got landscaping, we have a retaining wall we've done that's beautiful. But we got some, with that comes other big, hairy, audacious goals we have to accomplish. So look for that sometime after June. But we will be doing some walkthroughs of that home.
Yes.
At various stages, right? Yes, this is okay.
Yes, absolutely.
They're saying wild things on the live, which is dangerous. So
yeah, we'll have our usual behind the sheetrock where we take everybody through. We'll do a presentation when it's dried in and the mechanicals are in, and all that, so you guys can see everything that you don't see once we put up all the pretty stuff. Because really, that's where the quality of your home is. It's in that bones, in the framing, in the mechanicals, in the foundation. So we want to make sure you guys have an opportunity to see that and not just the finished product.
So check us out on these platforms. Keep asking your questions here. We answer messages. Obviously, Jason's going to attest to that, as many others can. We answer your questions during the week that you might have. So don't hesitate to ask us. And between now and then, we just genuinely hope to make you soon part of the Tilson family. We'll see y'all later.
Bye, everybody.